Welcome to the Talking Michigan Transportation Podcast. I'm Jeff Cranston. This week, the worker shortage. Even before the pandemic-induced phenomenon known as the Great Resignation, employers in many sectors were struggling to find and retain employees. This certainly applies to the skilled trades. I'll explore the topic and what's being done in terms of transportation infrastructure workforce. First, with James Fults, who manages the Michigan Department of Transportation's Workforce Programs and Recruitment Unit. Later, I'll speak with Lee Graham, who oversees and directs recruitment efforts for the Operating Engineers 324, who have been building in Michigan for more than 100 years. So once again, I'm with James Fults, who heads up the Recruitment and Workforce Development Unit at MDOT. And James, let's start with a little background on yourself and how you came to work in this area and came to MDOT.
Yeah, great. Thanks for inviting me, Jeff. So I started in state government about 6 years ago in the Department of Corrections as an employment counselor. There I would work with returning citizens as they're about to be released and try to find them employment. This is where I started working with employers. It was really my baptism by fire in workforce development. From there, I transitioned to the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, where I was a regional partnership manager covering the sector of mobility, which gave me an opportunity to engage with MDOT on a few projects. One of note is the Pilot Shortage Task Group through the Office of Aeronautics, where I worked with that team, some industry partners to really identify some root causes of the pilot shortage. In that industry, throughout all industries, there is a human being shortage, a number of people going into certain careers, and that one is no different. One of the other parts that I worked with was on working with the Office of Business Development through their OJT program to provide awareness of that provides our contractors with some federally required workforce programs where they have to bring in a certain number of minorities, women, and economically disadvantaged individuals. So I was working with them to make them connected to the Michigan Works around the state. That really led to my connection with MDOT, and this position opened up. I think it was around December of 2020 is when I interviewed and came on in January of 2020, 2 months before the work from home order.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Interviewed in December of 2019 and then started just when the pandemic really took hold. So talk about what you've seen in terms of what's created this and the fact that this really predates the pandemic, what was going on with the talent gap and the shortage across all sectors, but especially the skilled trades, what you were already seeing.
Yeah, so it's been described as the Sansdemic. There's just not enough individuals around 20, 30 years ago that were born to really meet the demand of individuals in the baby boomer generation that are now exiting the labor market. There's just not enough human beings to backfill them. And what we were advocating while I was at Leo is that the industry work together and really have a comprehensive marketing plan and engagement with all levels of the pipeline to make that smaller labor market aware of their career opportunities. That's what we were working on, with different industries, and my focus was mobility.
Which was a great transition into what you're doing now.
Absolutely.
So talk about some of the challenges that we see. I mean, we know that, most of us would want for our kids that they attend a four-year university. I mean, that's just was kind of understood for a long time. And now we see people rethinking that, but it's difficult. We live in a state with some world-class public universities offering great educations, great resources. But there are some people, young men and women, who aren't necessarily interested in that and don't need that for the kind of work that you can do in the skilled trades and make a good living and find really satisfying work, building things.
Yeah, so the state of Michigan's been working on awareness around skilled trades for a number of years, because the labor market information has shown, the critical need for those positions. And, you'd mentioned universities. What we see is the majority of, good paying, life sustaining jobs require some level of post-secondary license, credential, some degree, not necessarily a bachelor's degree. And we're seeing that there's avenues to the different careers, like specifically at MDOT, to become a transportation maintenance worker, you'd need a commercial driver's license, or to become a technician, you need a 2-year degree or some level of experience and education in the industry. There's different pathways that students they need to be aware of, just because the number of enrollment in some of those schools is low due to awareness and just understanding of how good of a career that they could have in the long term in different industries.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, talk specifically, to your job with MDOT and the kinds of jobs you're recruiting, and you listed off some of the most challenging to fill. Could you talk about what those are?
Yeah, absolutely. So we know that we've got a list of 5 positions that our unit specifically spends a lot of time recruiting for, and of those are our mid-level engineers, some with license, some without, our electrician, our transportation technician, our surveyor, and our seasonal maintenance workers.
What is it about those jobs that you think that they're in a not so sweet spot, basically?
Yeah, again, it comes back to the number of individuals in those schools. When I mentioned licensed engineers or mid-level engineers, the people with that experience level is very small, and they're very sought after in the market. I've heard a statistic that 0.003 of the U.S. population has that professional engineering license, and a majority of them work at places like SpaceX or NASA. And it's really hard to draw them into a position like an engineer here at MDOT.
So I'm sorry. Go finish that thought.
Oh, I was just going to move through the list. The electrician, we know that it's a very small pool of around 20,000 licensed engineers in the state. That is our pool to draw from for those positions. For our surveyors, like I think I've mentioned a few meetings, is the most glaring, with 817 licensed surveyors in the state. It's challenging. And then with the CDL holder for the TMWs, it's finding people to cross industry and come over to us to do that type of work.
Talk about a CDL and what that is exactly.
So a commercial driver's license, for our seasonal workers, we require a Group B. The first step in getting your CDL. For our permanent positions, we require a Group A. And prefer an N and X endorsement. So those are just additional endorsements for air brakes and different materials that they're allowed to carry.
So back to that education issue for a minute. I know you've talked about that post-secondary credential of some kind, and I have a friend on the Grand Rapids Community College board, and it's really come to our attention, easy to recognize the last few years, that community colleges and apprentice programs and other kind of training are just like more vital than they've ever been. Does that just go back to the demographic question you raised?
Yeah, that's a large part of it. There's a smaller pool of individuals going into different degree fields, and having the ability to train somebody entry level. We just recently had a career fair where this number was kind of brought out. There were a lot of people very interested to work at MDOT, but when we looked, at their credentials, there was a mismatch. So there's an interest overall to work in this industry. It's just an awareness piece of how do you make one step to the next and get the right credentials to make you qualified for those positions. And MDOT is looking at the apprenticeship model. We've got a lot of reasons why, but the major reasons are a knowledge transfer of our current employees to new employees, and the fact that there's just not enough people in the labor market with the requirements for those critical positions that I mentioned.
And, this has been a problem more so in recent years, but probably exacerbated by everything else that we're talking about, the challenge of competing in government versus private industry to fill these jobs, right?
It is a challenge, but some of the things that we offer, is kind of the work-life balance. We're starting to offer more flexibility. The pandemic has brought that about. In some of our positions, we're allowed, to work from home. At this moment, with the pandemic situation going on, we're looking to see how that flexibility continues into the future. But being able to offer that, as well as, one of the less talked about benefits that I think is a real selling point now is the parental leave. We offer 12 weeks parental leave for mother or father, natural born or adopted child. So that's a huge benefit that not every organization offers.
That is a huge benefit. That's very forward thinking and very, very kind from a human standpoint. So talk about some of the partners. I mean, you inherited some programs. They've kind of been folded under your umbrella, and I know you're a great champion of the Transportation Diversity Recruitment Program, for instance, some of the others, and working with some industry partners who have jumped into it, recognize the value that it brings to them too.
Yeah, so looking from the outside in, seeing all of these programs, MDOT had all the right parts to really build our own pipeline, and has done a very good job of doing it. Starting with our youth programs, the Transportation and Civil Engineering program, our Youth Development Mentoring program, which offers a work experience in every region of the state for 16 to 18-year-olds, and then moving up into our traditional internship, previously called co-op, having that summer experience in between going to school. And one of the programs that's really been vital to ensuring that we're diversifying our department is the Transportation Diversity Recruitment Program. That program allows our staff to go out to historically Black colleges and universities and recruit from ABET accredited civil engineering programs to bring exposure to, one, Michigan, and two, the industry, transportation. Starting 8 years ago, we started with about 4 interns, and we've grown to this last year to 59, and that includes about half of that was with our industry partners through ACEC. Of that, there were 18 different organizations that sponsored interns for the summer.
Yeah, I was really glad to be there for the culmination of the program this year and meet some of the kids. And Lieutenant Governor was there, and Ron Branke from ACEC, which you mentioned, was there, and it was just a really good day. So I guess one of the things I'm wondering is if we're seeing, these retirements and these jobs opening up and people that are looking for second careers, the pandemic has made them, pause and take time just to rethink things in general. Do you think ultimately when some of those people decide to get back into the workforce, they'll be taking a look at these kinds of jobs and the kind of training that they can get to make a career change?
I do, and I think it's really in line with the governor's initiative of the 60 by 30, where as a state we're hoping to get 60% of our population some level of post-secondary credential by 2030. This is a great opportunity for those who have left the labor market and the service industry to look at our industry as an opportunity and maybe have some of those programs that would afford free community college or free programs for credentialing for them to go into this industry. I would hope that there's some opportunity there. We're definitely going to promote what we have available.
Well, I hope so too. That's a good place to wrap it up, and I appreciate it again and really appreciate all you're doing. I know it's challenging, but it sounds like it's rewarding for you and for all the people that work in your unit. Is there anything else that you'd want to mention?
I just want to mention that we've got a great team. The majority of our unit are long-term MDOTers who have come from different areas of the department that bring a wealth of experience, a wealth of connection to communities and to universities, and it's created a better alignment for us all to be together, focusing on specific metrics of how we transfer people through programs and focus on what is the critical need of the department to move the program forward, at any given year or into the future.
Yeah, well said. Thanks again. And speaking of those industry partners we talked about, I'll be back in just a minute with Lee Graham of the Operating Engineers here in Michigan. Thank you again, James.
Thank you, Jeff.
Stay with us. We'll have more on the other side of this important message.
The Michigan Department of Transportation reminds you that when a vehicle collides with another vehicle, person, or other object, it is a crash, not an accident. By reducing human error, we can prevent crashes and rebuild Michigan roads safely.
So, as promised, I'm back for the second half, and I'm with Lee Graham, who oversees recruiting and training efforts for Operating Engineers 324, which has more than 100 years of experience building here in Michigan. Lee, to start with, could you just talk a little bit about the history of the operators and the kind of work that they do and the kinds of jobs that they train for?
Yeah, I'd be honored to. Thanks for having us, Jeff. We build, we operate, we maintain. That's our motto. The members of the Operating Engineers 324 have kept Michigan onward and upward, for a century. With over 14,000 members, OE324 operate heavy machinery that propels construction on the roads, the bridges, the buildings, energy plants, pipelines, airports, and nearly every large-scale project in the state. Our highly skilled members operate cranes, dozers, trucks, excavators, and countless other equipment that is propelling us into the future. We're also on the forefront of technology. When you look at the opportunity of operating the next generation tools like robotic and remote controlled machines, drones, spider cranes, similar alike, the Operating Engineers 324 also represent the highly skilled stationary engineers who operate in 10 complex boiler and HVAC systems, and also trained technicians who fix and repair the equipment and keep downtime to a minimum in the fields and also in our shops.
So pretty much anything that you see on a road project, any big heavy piece of machinery, is probably being operated by one of your folks.
We have a lot of members out in the field, absolutely, that are building and rebuilding every day. So, yes, sir.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, President Biden visited Michigan and chose your training center as a place to really highlight and draw attention to the work you guys are doing, especially in the training area. So talk first about what it meant to have the president there and show him the facility and what it means to the program.
Yeah, we truly, as OE324 and our industry and all our partners, we're super honored to be visited by President Biden. He is out, raising awareness and support, for his plan to invest in infrastructure. And we certainly are proud, that he chose our training center to visit, and see what it takes to work on these infrastructure projects alone. Our training center in Howell is 560 acres, self-funded, year-round career center, where we're teaching the safest techniques and the newest technologies. So by visiting our site, the president got to see not only the massive $1 million cranes, dozers, excavators, and other equipment we train on daily, but also the simulators, today's latest technology, and our outreach that we do with the students in the schools for our future operators. The drones, the autonomous equipment, that propels these careers well into the future of what we were talking about earlier. And his plan is an opportunity for the country to invest in itself. The way our site is a testament to why unionized skilled trades invest in themselves.
So we know that there are studies recently I've seen that say that there's like 6 million skilled positions unfilled in the country and an estimated 10 million millennials with the necessary skills available to replace a surge of baby boomers retiring in the next few years. And we know that's going to be more. They call it the Sansdemic. So talk about how the operators are focused on this reality even before the pandemic.
Be glad to. We've been putting outstanding resources into all of our outreach and recruitment for many years now because we know two key things. We know that the state and the country have serious infrastructure needs in the work and the workers necessarily to complete, necessary to compete. It'll have to have lifelong sustainable careers well into the future. And we know that there's a great opportunities in the skilled trades for rewarding work and family supporting wages in these careers. Because of that, we have constantly looked for new ways to engage future operating engineers. We use the model we call identify, attract, and retain. by greater exposure to these careers, we have greater chance to inspire an interest in what we do. That means outreach more students and more communities, especially those that have been underserved in the past. Once someone in the interest, is interested in what we do, we explain that we need to build, a career into our field, what they can expect and how they can succeed. So retention is the final part. Once an operating engineer has experienced the job site and stated, the opportunity with their education, it's our job to give them the support to keep them engaged and successful. These are the reasons that we have more apprentices, in our earn and learn, DOL registered apprenticeship program than any other time in our history. So it's been truly amazing to come where we, have been and currently where we're at today.
So I know that, given the reality of things that people are pursuing second careers, and, some people are changing careers post another job or school, but what age do you really start trying to do your outreach and target potential workers?
Well, what's exciting is that, they always ask, at what age, just like what you're sharing there. And we've had, recently over here, the latest years, we've been able to do some kindergarten through fifth grade, which people are saying, what? And that's what's been exciting, because there's different groups. Like if you look at Frankenbooth and Liss Elementary School and different innovators in and around STEM, where we're able to bring in the simulators next to, the veterinarian and the police officer at that early age. I mean, the kids are truly enthralled, with the opportunity of something like that, in today's world. So our key to our recruitment efforts is diversity of all efforts. We work to get our message out to cast as wide net as possible. We have some presence at dozens of career fairs, event for middle and high schoolers throughout the state. We partner with the pre-apprenticeship programs like Access for All and Detroit Workforce of the Future to create a path, for many traditional underserved communities into our trade. We've been truly, truly proud of that with a lot of partners that have made that successful. We work extensively with our counselors, administrators, education professionals to let them know all about these careers and work with them to better introduce the possibilities to their students. So we join with organizations like the National Association of Women in Construction, Project Accelerate to bring more women into the trades. We create materials to better engage students, like our excavator simulator app students can download, or the many videos and actual simulators we bring to the career events. And so our crown jewel is the 2-day Michigan Construction Career Days we hold in May that MDOT and all the different partners are part of, where 3,000 plus students, 7th to 12th graders, come to the training center with all the trades and the colleges, universities, different employers are out there with a hands-on experience. So it's the largest construction career days in the state. And so our goal is to reach as many different opportunities in different ways with the communities as possible. Our careers are truly are for everyone, just to be able to outline that.
So when you talk about kindergarten through fifth grade, are these kids already playing with drones and programming bots, or are they at least still spending time with Tonka toys?
Yeah, they've got Tonka toys, but like you said, with the iPads and the Xbox controllers, and we ended up bringing up the simulators, and truly we had a line of, I think there was 14 girls in a line to get on that excavator simulator, and every single one of them, you talk about, being able to explain to them what the opportunity this does in our industry, and they're in the seat, and you share it with them, and next thing you know, they're following every direction that you took, smooth as possible. You know what I mean? And it's like, sometimes you get the boys in there and they want to be jerky, worky, whatever with the controls and, not even listening. But it's very important that we continue to, with our contractors and our different partners, to be at these different school events at that early age. And that's why we're proud, because some individuals or employers' approaches are, we got to get those seniors. And it's like, well, we're all the way down to kindergarten, fifth grade, with opportunities. So.
Yeah, when you say smooth as possible, I know exactly what you're talking about, because my grandfather was an operator and operated a backhoe, and I worked in the summers during college with him, and the idea that he could bring that that bucket down, within inches of your toe, was just incredible. And trust me, I could never do it. It's interesting about the girls, though.
Oh, truly. And so just what we shared earlier, just our partners that we've been able to work with over these years and watch our numbers continue to grow, with those opportunities is just truly amazing. So we're very proud.
Are you guys finding, some opportunities with the Gordie Howe International Bridge?
Yeah, very much so. So a couple weeks ago, we had our safety week down there, and super proud of the progression. You look across the waters and see our international brotherhood over there on that side. So it's, opportunity and a race to the center of the water there. But truly, the part that we're really proud of is the community that was impacted there. We've been able to work with Access for All with our pre-apprenticeship program and have opportunities, of course, right there in their community. And so the biggest thing about it is we've seen more apprentices on that project, and B&A and the whole team there has taken a high initiative to make sure that today's youth is getting in and around these journey persons, right, and being able to build cool projects like that. So, and we always brag the fact that, you're going to be able to drive over, you're going to be able to walk over, and you're going to be able to ride a bike over, and that's pretty phenomenal for Michigan to land something like that.
Yeah, it is. Since you mentioned safety, obviously, emphasis on safety is a high priority for you guys in terms of the workers and learning to work safely. But you've also faced your folks in the road, like road workers everywhere, phenomenal speeds since the pandemic started. And I think a lot of that's continued, and the crash rates are still high. And, it just seems like there's not enough we can do to put the focus on that kind of safety in work zones. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think one of the important things is that just the education in and around the construction sites, being live sites, like you mentioned, the motorists, the students, even in driver's training, not being able to go through work zones like that and be more educated. So we have initiatives, as ourselves in industry, MDOT and a lot of the contractors looking at best practices from across different states. But the most important thing is ensuring the fact that, going forward, that the men and women are able to go home to their families. And so they're looking at some new changes, especially with the heighten of distracted driving. And so one of the most recent opportunities was some of the legislators and our partners to be able to go down on some of these projects and stand, 24 inches away from live cars going through. And so that's what it takes. It takes us as an industry to educate all the others, that want to learn and know about this, so we can, have safe projects. That is the number one thing, just like you mentioned.
Yeah,
the most importance, Jeff.
We'll continue to underscore it too. So, lastly, just talk about your recruiting efforts, and job satisfaction is a selling point. I found a survey in my research from September that said like 83% of tradespeople are satisfied in their work. But that's still a challenge to find the people to fill those jobs. So, what do you hear from your members?
Well, the good thing is, even when you talk to the members, the fact that, whether they have 3 years, 13 years, 33 years, when you're able to get in front of different groups, whether it's K-12 or different industries and such, they're always telling different stories, personally of different projects that they help build and stand up. And, some of our iconic, projects, whether it be Little Caesar Arena or some of the latest stadiums in the schools and just the colleges alone. So what's really neat is that, they get to share that of how many hours that they put in on a project, or how long this one took to build, and how proud they are of building these buildings, downtown Ann Arbor, that, is on their way of, the cure of cancer. So our generation, it's truly important with the hoisting and portable out there on the construction, but then also the places with our stationary engineers that work at, the federal buildings and the schools, and also, facilities that are state of the art, like Little Caesar Arena. So satisfaction, very proud. We say OE324 proud, but we continue to get all those stories, shared out there, Jeff.
So I think it's safe to say that your members many of them have left a thumbprint on the skylines across the state, and that's pretty cool.
Very much so. So kind of like Comerica Park, you see the tigers up on top, right? They're like 22 feet in height. You wouldn't know that from sitting way up there where their eyes light up. But the operator that actually lifted them off the truck that was coming down the freeway, pulled in and got to set those. I mean, just different examples like that where you've been a big part of a project is always coming out from the members, what you're hearing anyway.
Yeah, what a cool thing to go to a game and, tell your son or daughter that you had a part in that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Lee. Is there anything else you want to add to this?
Yeah, I wanted to share just a couple more items here. We are all aware of the need of, for infrastructure right now, the roads and the bridges. We drive our families, that are traveling on the energy that heats and cools our homes, the drinking water we depend on, are all provided by infrastructure. So our members are the ones building that infrastructure. And so we are building, these roads and bridges, and we are doing it safely and efficiently and effectively. And we are putting in the pipelines to deliver water to drink and the natural gas to heat. So we are building the power plants and the wind turbines that make this a better state and a better place to live. So when we talk about projects and we talk about infrastructure and we talk about launching economic opportunities here in Michigan, those are the exact projects that we want to keep seeing moving forward stronger.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad you put an emphasis on that. I've been focused on our need to invest or reinvest in our roads and bridges and other infrastructure for years, and the fight goes on, but I really appreciate the way you put that. So thanks again, Lee, for doing this. I really appreciate it. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, we're super honored, and thank you, Jeff, for having OE324 on.
Thank you again for listening to this week's edition of the Talking Michigan Transportation Podcast. I would like to thank Randy Dubler and Corey Peedy for engineering this week's podcast. To subscribe to show notes and more, go to Apple Podcasts and search for Talking Michigan Transportation.